Sam, welcome to our next step-by-step video build. We were originally going to build this. Well, it's rubbish, so we're not going to bother. What we are going to do is build that instead. So, before we get going, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click the little bell notifications, get notified of all our latest videos. Click the like button and leave a comment. I do read and reply to all the comments and appreciate everybody that takes the time to leave a comment on the channel. And of course, if you scroll up in the description, there's a link to a big long list of all the items I use in my videos. So if you see anything, you should be able to find it in there. So yeah, there we go. I actually did plan to build a GT350. I started filming, I started assembling, and I lost the will to live. That kit's terrible. Now, there's a bit of online debate with me over it would improve my skills, yada yada yada, there's things to learn. The thing is, it's not that I can't build a kit. I don't want to. I don't want to build terrible fitting kits when I've got dozens and dozens of really nice kits. And that's not being stuck up or snobby, but I've built horrible kits in the past and I vowed never to do it again. And that thing is dire. Yes, with a lot of work, I probably could have made a beautiful kit. But I did not want to waste all that time, effort, and probably kill my mojo on a kit that was going to fight me all the way. Been there, done it, got the t-shirt. So, a new subject, still American, still a classic car. I built this before the Fujimi kit. I built the red one that's in the thumbnail to the video. And I thought, this is a great kit. I wanted to do a road car. I did originally plan to do it in black. But I thought, you know what, let's do it in the same colour pick for the GT350, which I showed on Facebook and my Paul ISM page as well. So that's what we're going to do. This is a much simpler kit. It still needs a bit of work. It's a very simple kit, very basic, but it still turns out to be a nice kit. Like I say, I want to build kits that I enjoy to build, look forward to getting to the bench to, not something that's going to fight me and take me weeks and weeks and weeks. So that's the reason for the change. I know a lot of people are probably disappointed. I am looking into other muscle cars. If anyone's got a muscle car or, you know, a big block car, American classic, anything like that, that's a decent kit that fits together with very little fuss or issue, let me know in the comments down below. I do have a Revel Camaro, I think it's a Z8, I think it is, that looks like a decent kit. So maybe I'll build that at a later date. But I'm going to probably stick a post up later on ISM Facebook and ask for recommendations of decent Revel kits. So yeah, there we go. So sorry about the change of plan, but we're still building a decent piece of American history. I love this car. The GT40 is amazing. And I hope you enjoy the build. And I'm not too disappointed by the change. But yeah. So anyway, let's crack on and let's get started. Okay, so here we go with the GT40. We'll have a quick look through the box, very quick, and then we'll crack on with the build. So I built one of these before. I did the red one that's in the thumbnail to the video about 6 months ago. It goes together pretty well. It's a pretty standard, easy kit, very basic, but it looked good once built up, and I thought it'd make a good subject and a good replacement for the awful GT350. So a quick cursory look around. There's plenty of seams to remove all over the body. And a nice big chunk of plastic at the front there that's going to need taken care of as well. But overall, it's not too bad at all. And once it's finished, like I say, it does look a decent kit. And my red one turned out pretty well. So cursory glance around to make sure there's no flaws in the kit. Everything's where it should be. The panel lines are all deep enough and don't need rescribing. And all looks good. Glasswork's good in these kits as well. I know that from last time. And you get a small fret of PE, the decals, which we're not going to use, and the rest of it here. So like I say, pretty basic kit, basic interior, basic running gear, a little bit of engine detail, and that's about it really. Not much to write home about, not a huge amount of work involved either, so it shouldn't take you too long. Be the standard 3-part build, and that's it. So you can see our cockpit tub there, the hood or bonnet. Like I say, we've got photo etch parts in there for bonnet pins, seatbelt harnesses, and the rear grille section as well. We've got some white stripes and white numbers, which we're not going to use. We've also got tyre decals and the seatbelt material in the back as well. So overall, I know it's going to build up well. The only difficult part on this kit is getting the body over the chassis at the end. It's a very, very tight fit, but other than that, it should be pretty straightforward. So the body, loads and loads of seams on this, all the way from the back, over all the edges, up over the door, down the windows, across the front wing, all along the front and down. It does take quite a bit of careful sanding to remove these. There's a big chunk of plastic one side. My other mould was exactly the same. So this is going to take some careful sanding with a multitude of different sanders and sticks and what have you, but I know it's pretty simple. There's our hood, there's our intakes for the back, and that's it really. Pretty basic body, just takes a bit of care and time and careful clean up, and we'll have a nice body prep for primer in no time at all. So we're going to cut off these intakes. These are in two parts. These are going to need gluing together and leaving overnight. Hopefully they shouldn't need any filler. They didn't last time. Using my Plasti-Weld Tamiya Extra Thin mix, nice and hot, squeeze them together and clamp them. A quick sand tomorrow. Should see them ready to be put on the car, and we can get it in the booth for primer. So we're going to cut these off, clean them up a little bit, and then get them glued together. So we've got the hood off now. No engine details at the back, sorry. There's nothing to see in the front, so there's no point leaving it off or open really. So we're going to take off all the screw points and then sand it flush, nice and smooth. So we've got our 400 sander. This is my normal choice of thinny stick for general cleanup. It's not too harsh and just abrasive enough to take off any bits of plastic we need to. So like I say, nice gentle cleanup. Don't be removing too much of this because you'll see it when you put it on the car body. If in doubt, just keep test fitting it, making sure everything fits and sits central where you want it. So as you see, once it's on, it's not too bad of a fit at all. It's going to take some careful gluing because it does need scooching over one side a bit, but we can figure that out in a little bit. So these rear intakes, these are in two parts as you can see. They actually fit together pretty well. I did contemplate actually gluing them with CA glue for speed, and thought better of it and thought no, we'll hit it with the Tamiya Plasti-Weld mix, clamp them together, leave them overnight, give them a quick sand the next day, and we'll be in business and ready to go. So this is a hotter mix of TET. Mixing them together gives you a little bit more control because it slows down the really hot Plasti-Weld. But with that, it makes the plastic a little bit more molten. When you apply a bit of pressure to the seam, I find this fills the seam a lot better. You've seen me using this on the bikes, on the fairings and what have you. We're not putting loads of it on, we're just applying it all around. Once we're happy we've got it all around, we'll turn it round, do underneath. And then once we let it melt for a minute or so, we'll take it out, give it a good squeeze, and then put it back in the clamp and leave it to dry overnight. So as you see, be careful not get any fingerprints. I'm just having a look. So there we go. Have a look. Give it a good squeeze. A little bit of pressure. Not a huge amount. Just enough to squeeze out that molten plastic. And there we go. Once I'm happy, pop the clamp back on and leave it till the morning. Right, there's a clear part on the back as well. We're just going to paint this body colour. On the last car I masked it and left half of it clear, but this time round we're just going to paint it the body colour because we're going to do a road kind of vehicle with this one. So again, pop it in place. We've cleaned all the screw points up so they're nice and clean, and then just a light bead of TET down the side and a little bit of pressure on top to push it home, and that'll be glued safely in place as well. So once all the seams are dealt with, there's just two separate parts, well 3 in total, to glue in place. 4, sorry, including the hood. It's a pretty straightforward body, pretty simple to build. Now the only criticism of the hood is it doesn't fully locate on the body, so there's not 100% gluing points all the way around, so pick your points and glue them. Don't press too hard because the molten plastic will fill the panel line. We don't want that to happen. We want to leave that natural panel line there, but obviously we need to make sure it's glued in place too. If in doubt at all, when the Tamiya Extra Thin's dried, flip it over and add a couple of spots of CA glue underneath just to give it a little bit of security. But we like the capillary reaction of the Tamiya Extra Thin mix, carry through the body, and this will limit our cleanup later on as well. So, get rid of that big chunk of plastic off the front. This is where we need to be careful. Now we're using our 400 thinny stick from UMP. Links for these in the description. We don't want to be altering the profile, so once the main part of that's gone, turn to a flexible sponge and lightly start to sand. Now, some people have taken a mickey man with saying this, but let the sander do the work. You don't need to apply a huge amount of pressure. It's the abrasiveness of the sander that does the job, so let that do the work rather than altering the profile of the wing. Just lightly glide the sander over and get rid of that seam. And just keep going and angling it towards the light until you can make sure that that seam has gone totally, because it's surprising once you've sanded that it can still be there in places. On the back, where our little spoiler is, where it flips up, there's an awkward little seam, so we've got a 400 customizable sander. Again, all the sanders and tools you can see are all linked in the description. Click on it, it'll take you over to UMP, where you can buy our sanders. We've also got the 400 in the vent as well to clean up all the flash in there. There's not a lot, just a little bit. You could use your knife if you wish, but I prefer using a sander because it's a little bit more accurate and a little less brutal as well. Onto the buffer to clean up all the body now. We clean up all the seams, we've got all the way around. It's quite a bit of work, it's a good half hour of work, a lot more than most car bodies, but it's worth the effort in the end. We've now got our 6000 Trizact 3M pad now, and we're just going around and lightly scuffing up all the body in preparation for primer. So just dulling the body all round, and then once we're happy we can put that to one side. It's the following morning now, and we've got our little vents that we intakes that we glued together last night. As you can see, we've got a nice bead of molten plastic through the top of them. So again, onto our 220 sponge sander, just lightly sanding away that join. We've got our 240 customizable sander inside to clean up the vent inside, and then once we're happy, hit it with the buffer and we're ready to rock and roll. So we put the vents in place. They actually push fit, don't even need any glue. Push fit in place. We've got our old toothbrush, clean up all the seams and recesses to get any sanding dust out. And once we're happy with that, we've got some Ultimate Airbrush Cleaner. Mine's decanted in a smaller bottle. Some kitchen paper. We're going to fold it into 4. I'm just going to put a little bit on and wipe down the entire body to remove any remnants of fingerprints, sanding residue, dust, grease, everything off there. So systematically all the way around the body. At this point, it's mounted on its Tamiya stand that I think, yeah, this needs taping on the stand. I was hoping it didn't because the body is quite shapely underneath to hold it, but it's sliding back and forth. So I think, yeah, let's pop a little bit of tape on. So we grab the Tamiya tape, grab the 18mm, a small section, we don't need a huge amount. As you can see, just pop it in place. And that secures the stand to the body a lot better and gives it a bit more security and peace of mind knowing it's not going to fall out or slide back and forth. Make sure it's level as well. I always find it helps to have it level. So if you have one side lower than the other, you'll catch it with your hand as you're 2K'ing it, what have you. So I like to make sure it's even all the way around. Again, we'll degrease again because we've had our fingerprints on there. In the spray booth now, we've got the Ultimate Black Primer. We've got our Ultimate Apex with a 0.35mm needle. We're at 30 psi. And we're going to prime this up. Before we get going, we're going to use the anti-static brush from Tamiya. So just go around all the body, give it a wipe over, get any dust off. And then start with our priming. Starting light, working our way up, not heavy coats. Get a nice dust layer down first. And we can come back with heavier coats later on. So we're just going around, getting all the angles, recesses, lights, grills, intakes, all around the bottom, just to make sure we get everywhere covered. We'll do the interior as well, all inside. We'll get a nice coat of primer and paint. So like I say, we're not trying to hose it on, we're just getting a base layer down first. So as you can see, there's no wet coat, it's just a light mist dust coat. We're just making sure we've got a little base coat over every little recess and corner. Once we're happy, we'll put it down for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then come back and do our second coat. I like to do 3 to 5 coats of primer, depending on the body. This one's quite complex, this one's going to need a little bit more. So this will get about 5 light coats of primer in the end. On the last 2 coats, we'll get a little bit heavier. As you can see, I think this is coat number... no, it's number 2. So we're going in a crisscross pattern now. We're going up and down. And again, we're not trying to cover it all with these steps. We're just applying the primer and building up slowly. So this is about the end of coat number 4, I would guess. And we're using the airbrush to dry the primer. As you can see, just blow in air. Dries the primer off really nice and quick. So you can speed up the process should you wish. And you can watch it literally dry in front of your eyes. So this is our final coat. So this is about, I think this is coat number 5. As you can see, a little bit wetter now, but we'll leave that to dry and then come back for our base coat. So we've got the normal Tamiya lacquer thinner. We're not going to use the retarder today. We're using a metallic paint. It doesn't need the retarder. We've got LP20 gunmetal from Tamiya. Give it a good mix up with the Badger paint mixer. And we're going to mix it about 60% thinner to paint. I don't do it precisely. I do it approximately. So we pop in a few mil of paint. Then by eye, I'm going to mix some thinner in there. We don't need a retarder. We want this to dry with a nice metallic sheen. So there's no need for the retarder thinner. Whiz it up with our Badger paint mixer again. And we're ready for coat number 1. So we'll just have a look for any dust. Give it a quick blow over with the airbrush. So we're through the apex again, 0.35, we're at 18 psi now. And again, we're going to build up the paint slowly, we're not going to hose it on. The primer's been allowed to dry overnight, probably about 12 hours or so. And we're going to put 5 coats of this on. And just build up nice and slow. Until we get the colour we want. So as you can see, already laying down really nicely. Again, making sure you get all those recesses. We want nice even coats all over this. Just pay attention to where you're spraying. And we'll also spray inside as well, like I said earlier. Tamiya paint stands are an absolute godsend. They make life so much easier. Like I say, you can pick all this stuff up. A lot of it from myself and the Ultimate. We've got most of these in stock. And everything else you see me using, there's a big list down below in the description of the video. You'll find most of it there. So that's at about 10 minutes to off gas. Just having a quick check that we've got all the areas we require. And then we're coming back in for coat number 2. As you can see, crisscross pattern again. Going up and down this time. We're side to side to begin with. Up and down. And we'll alternate this. So it'll be 3 side to side passes. And 2 up and down. Until we get the coverage you want. And you really start to see the hue of the paint as it lays down now on the model, and it's a very, very strange colour. It goes to an almost brown black colour depending on the light, and it's got a very, very cool flip to it. You can see it in the paint itself as well when you're looking at the bottle. But there we go, that's about coat number 3, I'd say. You can see we're getting a real depth to it now. It's starting to look really, really good. So just have to go look around to make sure we're covered everywhere. I think we're at about 4 coats now. And as you see, it's got some real nice depth and colour to it. It's looking very, very nice. And after our final coat, number 5, it's looking very, very cool. Like I say, it's a very, very, very strange colour. Changing colour under different lights. So this is going to be allowed to dry for 6-7 hours. And then we're going to hit it up with a panel line wash. So we've got Tamiya's black panel line wash. We're going to just apply this to all the panel lines, recesses, gaps, handles, everywhere we can. We'll let it dry for half an hour or so. Then we'll wipe away the excess. So we're not loading it up, we're just dabbing it in, and I find a couple of go-rounds worthwhile. So put it on, let it capillary reaction through the panel line, let it dry for a bit, then come back and put another bit in there as well. So just make sure you get all the panel lines all the way around. If it's recessed, I put a wash in it. As you can see, just carefully applying it as we go, because the less we get on the body, the less we've got to clean up. As you can see, leave half an hour. We can get off just with a cotton bud and some tissue. And we just gently go around, making sure we get everything removed from everywhere. Once you think you've got it off, go around and double check it again, because I'll put money on it, you'll find somewhere where you've not quite removed it properly. And again, once you're finished, leave it to dry overnight again, and then we can come back in the morning and we'll 2K clear coat it. So it's the following morning. If you're interested in a new car, plenty of adverts on my bench. Right now we're mixing some 2K. So we've got 6mm of the Gravity 2K clear coat in there. This is Gravity Spain. It's a 3:1:1 mix. So we're going to add 2mm of hardener and 2mm of thinner. We're going to stir every time we add the chemical, and then stir it at the end as well. Give it a good stir up. We've got our double gloves on. All our skin's covered. I've got my full face respirator on, and we've got the extractor going full pelt. We're going to use a 190 micron paint strainer to strain the 2K, just to ensure there's nothing in there we don't want. We're going to wet our work here. I've gone back to newspaper. A lot of people are saying about dust on kitchen towel. So to reduce the dust, I've gone to newspaper, and I see we've got lots of nice car adverts. So if you're after a new car and you're near Cheshire, knock yourself out. But we're just spraying down lightly some water, let that soak in, and then we've got our anti-static brush all over the body again. And here we go with our first 2K. Blow it off with the air. We're going to apply our tack coat to begin with, so it's just a very light coat all over. We're through the 0.35 apex, we're at 18 psi. Well, actually we're at about 22 psi on this. I'm just going to go all around the body and put a nice tack coat down. What this will do, after being left 10 minutes, it will get nice and sticky, and that will hold our subsequent wet coats without them running. That is the theory, tends to work. So again, all the angles, wheel arches, in between the lights and the vents, all around, just making sure we've got everywhere covered. So when using 2K, do pay attention to the safety. Don't get it on your skin, don't breathe it in, make sure there's nobody in the room with you, pets. It's a well ventilated room, you've got a good spray booth, and you need a good respirator too. So we're coming with our first wet coat. So again, we're going to systematically go all round and put our wet coat down. We're not trying to get our full wet coat with this, we're just putting a wet coat down. We'll get that with our third and final coat in a minute. For any details of the respirators I use, they are in the description of the video. I use the Scott, the big full face respirator. That's probably the best protection I'll get without going air fed. As you can see, we're putting the body in the plastic storage container now, just putting it over the top. Again, we're not using the drawer anymore to minimise the dust that's in the clear coat. And as you can see, I put the bottle of thinner underneath just to give a bit of air to let it off gas properly. And hopefully this should minimise our dust now. So carefully remove the lid over the top, well, the case over the top. And we're coming with our final wet coat. So now we need to make sure we do have a full wet coat. As you can see, our first wet coat did give a nice glossy finish, but we're going to go around now and just make sure that we do get a full wet coat. So all around the body, as you've done before. Pay attention to all those vents and intakes and grills and what have you. And then once you're happy you've got a wet coat down, we'll come back, have a good look around all the body using the light above us at an angle to make sure there's no orange peel, nowhere's been missed, and if there is, we'll just give it another light pass over again. But there's so many angles on this car, you really do need to pay attention. We have had a few pieces of dust land in the finish. We'll sand those out at the end. They're not going to be perfect because we're not in a completely sealed environment, so it is going to happen. Thankfully less on this than on the other Ford GT, but it's looking good. The colour's changed again, it's gone more, definitely more gunmetal now. It's lost a little bit of that brown hue. It's still there though, it does still flip a little bit. As you can see, now I'm using the light just to inspect all around the body to make sure we've got equal coverage everywhere, not forgetting our wheel arches too. And again, make sure the tops of the handles, doors are all done, and that's it. So we'll put this under the case, well, the box, for 2 hours and then whip it out. There we go. 2 hours later, it's now dust dry. We'll leave this a week to fully dry, but we've got a nice gloss coat all over. We've got a few bits of crud in there, but nothing too bad. And there we go. So this will be left now for 7 days where we work on the rest of the model. Okay, there we go. So that's where we're at today. Bodywork, yes, it needs quite a bit of cleanup. It's a bit fiddly. There's a few, the hood's a bit fiddly to glue in place, but it's not too bad. It just needs a little bit of careful gluing. And the seam lines, which literally run completely front to back, there's none hidden whatsoever. Just needs some careful sanding. It's a nice kit. It's very basic, but it will build up to look like a decent model. Been there, done it. It's in the picture of the video, so you can see for yourself. So that's all our bodywork done. Obviously, I've chose to go with no stripes. I just wanted to be the plain colour. Just personal preference. I'll probably do a black one later today. I've got another one in the stash, and I've got a Gravity anthracite black there that I'll probably do it in. And we'll probably give it the white stripes to go with it. I've already done it in red. But yeah, I bought 2 more because it's a decent kit and it goes together well. Like I say, the only issue is getting that body over the chassis at the end is unbelievably tight. Very, very tight getting it over. But I've done it before, so I should be able to do it again just fine. So there we go. There's part 1 out of the way. Part 2, I've already started cleaning up the chassis, interior, all the running gear, what have you. Now wheel choice. I'm thinking either black or gold, and I think gold will probably contrast really well. A nice bright gold like TS21. But let me know your thoughts. It's either that or a paint the centre's black, I think it was, did they say? And leave the outside of the rim silver. I don't know, but I am kind of liking the thought of gold wheels. Nice bright gold wheels. Let me know your thoughts in the chat down below. I take all opinions on board. And there we go. So we'll be back with part 2 very, very soon. Probably midweek next week. I'm going to do a matchbox restoration over the weekend is the plan. So hopefully you should get a video of that next week as well. I'm going to do my Audi Quattro and see how that turns out. That's the plan. Whether it will work, I don't know. We'll find out. And there we go. So as always, make sure you check out International Scale Modeler Facebook page and forum, upretail.com, where you can get most, if not all, of the products I've used today. Check out the Live the Bench page for the live show every Friday night. The Off Air Hangout group for the Off Air Hangouts. My Paul ISM Facebook page, where all my personal modelling work gets shared as well. And go back through the channel, have a look at all the other builds. There's Super Build, Skyline, a couple of bike builds, all sorts on there. Go back and look through it. And there's a 10-part Subaru Technique series as well, which will run you through each stage of the build, step by step, properly, all the way through. And that's it. And of course, make sure you subbed, click the bell notification, give us a thumbs up, and leave a comment down below. I do read them all. Thanks for watching today. I'll catch you on part 2. Take care. Bye bye.